All right. So on today's episode, we have ourselves Vaati4554. That's the right amount of fives.
No.
And is a good buddy of mine, great friend of mine. We've been friends for a very, very long time. And I thought he has a very interesting perspective on, the streaming space. He's done it for a while. He's had a lot going on in his life. And he's been streaming about roughly 9 years on Twitch, give or take. And the first stream, funnily enough, was on a console playing Fire Emblem on the Nintendo Wii 8 years ago. He's a retro gaming enthusiast, college graduate with a degree in global history research with a minor in Japanese, and does, whenever he can, some competitive speedruns for a game called Aria of Sorrow Randomizer, placing very well after just jumping into it because, he's kind of a natural at that stuff. With that being said, I have known you for such a long time, and starting at the very beginning, it'd be like a multiple podcast type thing. So I'm going to jump into very specific moments, and I also want to say thank you for doing the podcast here.
Oh, yeah.
Vaati.
No, absolutely. It's not a problem. It's a pleasure, honestly. I was trying to think if we did go back to the beginning, when it would have been. I would have been in, like, what? I don't know, 7th, 8th grade at the time when we first met, I want to say.
Same high school. It was,
like that.
You were with my brother-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And, met through my sister, weirdly enough, of all things. So...
And then we bonded like brothers.
I love that these things come out.
So what's going to happen here is we're going to jump straight into it, okay? And I want to know what got you into gaming, like, what started that entire, process for you?
A genuinely and exceptionally easy question for me. It's a story I do like to tell a lot because I think it informs a lot of my particular character, which is spite, mostly. So I remember being very young. I mean, I'm talking like 2.5 years old, watching my father play The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time on the N64. I wanted to play this game so goddamn bad. I thought it was the coolest thing at the time. You could be a guy running around with a sword. It's all I ever really wanted in life. I was consistently told that, no, you are not allowed to play this because you can't play this because you need to know where you're going, and to do so, you need to know how to be able to read. I, being the spiteful little bastard that I was, took this as a challenge and taught myself how to read to be able to play Ocarina of Time after watching my father play it. So he comes home from work one day and sees me kind of sitting on the floor in front of the television asking, what are you doing? I told you you're not allowed to play that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to the Great Deku Tree to go try and help them. And he's like, I don't know what to do about this. On one hand, he actually learned how to read to do this. Incredible.
Right. Every parent's dream.
On the other hand, I no longer get to play the N64 as much. So I think it was something that was just inbuilt into me, which was like, oh, that seems like a fun thing to do. So I started by playing Ocarina of Time, learning, literally teaching myself how to read to be able to play it, and just kind of fell in love with it from there, right? I played, a lot of the old classic N64 games, stuff like Ocarina of Time, which I still love to this day. Majora's Mask is still one of my favorite, one of the more important games to me overall. Stuff like Star Fox 64, Mario 64, and it really just kind of progressed from there. I definitely started a lot as, a Nintendo kid. I didn't really get an additional console that wasn't Nintendo-based until, the original Xbox. Which I wanted desperately because I had been playing PC games at the time. I got into Half-Life, again, kind of through my father, and really enjoyed it a lot and really wanted to get into Halo. So from there, it really was kind of this slow march of starting with Ocarina of Time just by having a family member playing it and being like, that seems really fun. I really want to be part of that, right? And
what was your first console, though?
It was the N64, I think. Unless you mean the first console I bought for myself, in which that was a Nintendo GameCube.
Probably just the first one someone gave to you, but then what was your favorite game growing up?
That answer changes so much throughout my life, I've got to be honest. That's genuinely really tough. Because for the longest time, I probably would have said Ocarina of Time just because of or at least probably Majora's Mask, actually, just because of how much that meant to me growing up, because it really had this sort of atmosphere I liked to it a lot. I really liked, even when I was younger, I really liked the time management of it. It's something that felt really unique that no other game had, and kind of that sense of almost dread behind it, really kind of spurring you forward was something I really liked even when I was younger. one of the games that I think has stuck with me far and away the most that I played when I was younger, probably about 12, 13 years old, was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. Particularly Coder 2. I'm even wearing a Coder-themed shirt right now for this, the logo of Revan's Sith Empire. Like the characters of Revan, Malak, the Jedi Exile, and Coder 2. Coder 2 is a game I can talk at length about to a concerning degree, honestly. I think that is the game that's probably ended up meaning the most to me overall throughout my life. Even when I was younger, even up until now, it's something I still play almost yearly.
Okay.
It's
I do have a question.
It admittedly is really hard to pick one.
Okay, so Coder, which is Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Right? And what was the other option?
Majora's Mask is definitely up there. That's definitely going to be one of the, like, the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is definitely up there.
What do you have more time in?
Honestly, it's probably, are we counting the combination of Coder 1 and 2?
No, just one.
If we're just counting one of them, I think it is still Coder, but it's probably going to be Coder 2. Like, Knights of the Republic 2, The Sith Lords, is a game I legitimately, and I am not exaggerating when I say have played at least once yearly since I was probably 13. It is, I know way too much about it, and every time I play it, I still find additional facets to it that are interesting to me.
Okay. So, with that said, along that same vein here, you're gaming, you're teaching yourself how to read out of spite, and at some point during your life, you go, wait a minute, live streaming. Like, what started that? How did you get there from all that?
It's kind of challenging to say because, I mean, live streaming was something that I got to see kind of really early on in its infancy. I remember when, like, Justin TV was still a thing, and was kind of, like, just coming around. Like, you could watch people play games live. I had grown up, like, around the burgeoning era of YouTube and Newgrounds. Like, Newgrounds is where you started to see some of the original, like, Let's Play era come through, of people doing, like, parody of games and whatnot, and then, like, kind of transferring to YouTube. People then doing, like, original Let's Play stuff on YouTube. People like, Proton John, Nintendo Capri Stun. Eventually the one that ended up mattering a lot to me when I was growing up was Rooster Teeth. Guys who did, like, Red vs. Blue.
Love that.
Ended up making Achievement Hunter and their Let's Play series ended up being something I really enjoyed a great deal. And that idea of, like, yeah, you can kind of create this or share this sort of experience of gaming either for yourself, whether it's like for achievement hunting or just for fun for playing with your friends, or like cool ideas you had or showing off cool clips and skill shots. I mean, the classic like Call of Duty skill shot montages, right? Like everyone's aware of that. So I think kind of seeing a lot of those earlier, like really early content creators, some of which are still active today, like Proton John still streams and still posts to YouTube occasionally. Ray Narvaez Jr. is one of the largest streamers on Twitch at the moment, and he got his start from Rooster Teeth, and the Let's Play Achievement Hunter channel, and he's one of the big like pioneers of Twitch at this point, right?
Okay, so then what got you like, hey, I'm Vaati, and I'm about to just boot this bad boy up. Like, all right, cool. I'm gonna start streaming. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I watched a lot of that content, like, and really enjoyed it. Always was really interested. I was like, this is something I maybe would be able to do. Like, I feel like I was probably pretty okay at games. I felt like I was It's really hard to say because it was more so a very spur of the moment thing where I had considered it and been like, yeah, I could, like, it would be really fun, like a fun thing to do, to just kind of like take a game that means a lot to me and kind of like, originally it started as an idea to like do more of like a Let's Play style thing where like I'll record it, edit, upload it, and then I was like, that's just something I don't have the capability of doing. I was working at GameStop at the time. A capture card came into the store that I knew I could buy at a discounted price, and I was like, there's something, I'm gonna pick this up, maybe there's something I can do with this. Around this same time, Fire Emblem Heroes came out, the Fire Emblem mobile game, and they had just announced that Ike was being added to the game, and I was like, I think that's really cool. I think that's a lot of fun. It's really cool to see my favorite Fire Emblem game and one of my favorite Fire Emblem characters getting some representation. So I was like, I just have this capture card. I'm going to go ahead, hook it up, and say, we're just going to do a fun stream of Path of Radiance. It's a game I really like and care a lot about. And I'm just going to try and talk about it with people. Just like have someone, or like try and create this space for like a shared interest that is fairly niche. Because God knows Fire Emblem is niche. Or at least was and try and kind of like cultivate this sort of sphere around like an opportunity basically to like, yeah, I had one friend at the time that I knew would want to watch it and talk about it because he had never seen the game, he was unfamiliar but was interested, so I was like, you know what, I'll boot up a stream. If anyone else comes in, that's great. If not, such is life. I still get to like stream Fire Emblem, talk about it with a friend that I knew would be in chat, and kind of go from there. And I really didn't have any greater conceptions of it at the time. It was something that had always been kind of like sitting in the back of my head, but I never thought would be like capable of, because I was like, I don't know if I'm entertaining enough or like funny enough or like skilled enough or like any of those additional qualities to really kind of push it forward. But I was like, it could be like a fun thing to do, right?
So is that how you like got around it? Like push past those like limiting beliefs, like I'm just not that guy, and I'm not. Because before when we first started this, you were like, this guy's a big streamer, and this guy was doing this, and Rooster Teeth, and this, and then like you're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and then under that, you're like probably looking at it thinking, oh my god, these guys are awesome, and now I'm gonna try to do it. Like, how'd you get past that mentally?
Well, the answer is I didn't.
Oh, okay. What do you mean?
It's something I still kind of like have a lot of pretty significant issues with, honestly. Like something I genuinely still struggle with and have for like genuinely almost 9 years at this point, right? Is that concept of like, no, like why would anyone watch this, right? I did that initial stream back on like, I think it was April of 2017, something like that, because it was kind of a bit of pressure from a friend of mine to be like, no, I kind of want to see the game. I know you have the capture card. It's something you were interested in. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I will do it and try it out. And I ended up meeting one of my closest friends now from that, just by complete accident.
Right.
Yeah, Vax or Travis popped into that stream the first time I ever went live with Fire Emblem and has been there ever since. Shout out to the GOAT. But I still do kind of have that same problem of because I mean I was inspired by definitely a lot of these other larger creators, people that I thought were kind of especially when I was younger, like almost larger than life in some way, right? That are like able to play games for a living and have fun for a living, which is like insane.
Right.
But there is that kind of secondary problem with it of like they are either extremely talented, like they're very good at games, like they're very like going back to like that achievement hunter mentality, that someone who's like going through 100%ing a bunch of different games or getting like the hardest achievements for like to prove a point, or even to like that same mentality of like the Let's Play group or whatnot, and kind of just doing it for fun but like being entertaining, the concept of like making content, right, where it has that sort of intention of being entertaining. But I didn't feel like I had either of those qualities necessarily, and pushing past that is something that is, I don't know, it is admittedly still a problem.
Yeah.
And something that still definitely kind of lingers around, right?
Yeah, and I think everyone has that, you know. There's always somebody funnier. There's always someone smarter. There's always someone who's got a better bit. There's always someone who's got better camera gear. And it's like, it's a never-ending battle, it feels like. And the comparison, like, I don't care who you are. I don't care how secure you are. You're going to at least look at someone else and be like, wow, that person's killing it in X, Y, and Z. And
why are they successful and I'm not?
Right. And then you're like, man, I can do that. And then you turn the camera on and then you're like, oh my God, this is way harder than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Or what am I doing different? And then it turns into a whole thing. And then most people kind of give up at that point, and or they just have to like figure some stuff out.
I think one of the best and largest things you can do to deal with that is ask yourself, who is this for? Which is, I understand, sounds a little bit weird, but it really is a question of like, who is this for? Like, are you doing this for yourself because it's something you want to do? Are you doing it because it's like something that you think would be fulfilling? Are you trying to like make quote unquote capital C content and like trying to be funny and trying to reach a specific audience? And if so, by asking who this is for, you can then kind of tailor what it is you want to do around that, right? Because there is always going to be this consistent trade-off of like, not everything you ever do is going to be for yourself, especially in this sphere. There are always some sacrifices you're going to have to make, some capitulations you're going to have to make to just kind of say, I need to do this to kind of help either build a viewer base, to retain one, or things along those lines. Which is, I mean, that is tough because it is something that will make this feel much more like a job, which is why I think one of the big appeals of this that people tend to have is they're like, oh, I get to do what I want for a living. But then a lot of people have to kind of come to face with the grip of reality. It's like, oh, you can't just turn the camera on, slack jaw staring into it, playing Overwatch or like Marvel Rivals for 8 hours a day, and people aren't going to watch that.
You just called out a lot of people, by the way.
I really didn't have anyone in particular in mind. That is just
No,
like, the
I know,
most
but that is
common
what
thing you
happens with
see.
people who like boot the camera up and they're like, you know,
Yeah.
and like they're just mouth ajar. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first started streaming, I was one of those people. Then
Yeah.
I would watch myself back, and I was like, dude, why is my mouth doing that? And then I would like catch myself and try to like close your jaw, because that just looks like I'm just like head empty, you know?
Yeah.
So I get that.
And it is really tough to kind of like strike that balance, especially with how as weird as it is to say, how flooded the market is right now, right?
Oh yeah, there's millions of streamers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the stats are kind of bleak to look at when it's like, oh yeah, if you have like 5 viewers, you are in the top 2% of people on Twitch. That is insane to think about.
Yeah. That's very true.
And there's a lot that kind of goes into that makes it pretty challenging, I think. And I think dealing with that sort of like imposter syndrome behind that can be really rough.
So with that, kind of like bringing this back a little bit to you starting off with your whole streaming and everything, what was your setup looking like? Like, what did you use to stream? How did you do it? How did you pull it off? Like, what was your setup looking like?
Initially, I had streamed a couple times before even that initial stream that I was talking about, by just streaming directly from like the Xbox or the PlayStation.
Right.
I think the first ever stream I did technically was a live stream of Fury from the PlayStation 4. Just using the inbuilt Twitch app with no camera, no chat access, anything. I just was playing Fury and was like, a friend wanted to watch. We didn't have Discord at the time, so I just streamed from there. But I don't really count that. If we're counting my first real quote-unquote stream, it would be the Fire Emblem Path of Radiance stream. I had an old Elgato 60 FPS capture card that used the original RGB hookup. So it had that 3-prong with the 3 RGB
classic.
wires. Yep, because it could connect to any like console, like a Wii, a Nintendo GameCube, stuff like that. And I was like, I'm mostly going to be streaming stuff like this anyway, right?
Right.
So it was just a console with 2 monitors on my desk, OBS in one window, the game on another, and basically just a cropped version of the pop-out window of Twitch chat on the side behind it.
I did see that.
Super zoomed up, fucking unreadable. This was a disaster. And I thought it was cinema. I was like, I am so ahead of the game by having chat on screen. I am breaking new ground.
What a pioneer.
And it was miserable. I fixed it like 2 streams later because I was looking back at the VOD and I'm like, this is not it, dog. There's gotta be no.
So
Streamlabs existed at the time. I could have done a Streamlabs widget. I just had no clue what the hell that was.
Did
Yeah.
Streamlabs exist? No kidding. I didn't know how far back that went.
Yeah, I was using OBS and just OBS and a capture card basically, and like a $40 Blue Yeti mic, like a Blue Yeti desk mic. Yeah,
classic.
I know, right? That's the shout out to Blue Yeti, by the way, for being like the most affordable
Blue Yeti is
mid-tier
the
mic
brand for anyone who's trying to start streaming. Get a Blue Yeti mic that's super cheap, rip it, and just see what happens.
Genuinely, it's good enough.
Yeah,
the biggest thing you need
I had
to
a Blue
do.
Yeti. Yeah.
It is. Good
This is
enough.
not an ad, by the way. This is not just putting that out there.
There are other options as well. Like, you don't have to go with the Blue Yeti brand, but something that is just like a standalone. Do not use a headset mic. Just get like a standalone desk mic. Buy a pop filter for it. It will be good enough. OBS will do the rest.
True.
You will be okay.
True. Along that same vein, though, how important, genuinely, like you can say it does or it doesn't, like genuinely, how important is gear starting off with streaming?
It isn't.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, 'cause people think you got to. I know a guy, and I know you know a guy, and they bought. This was years ago. They bought they bought
like
the top line, $1,000 worth of stuff, and they're like, "I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna get it perfect." And then like 6 months or so into it, maybe even like benefit of the doubt, like 8 months, they quit, and they're like, "I need to sell all this stuff now."
Yeah. There is basically a tier list of things that you need if you want, in my opinion, to have like a successful stream. And that is a core conceit of like an idea of what it is you want to do, how you want to do it, like what it is you're aiming for. A personality better than that of a dead fish. You need to at least be somewhat engaging and entertaining. And then down here, you have gear. I'm not going to say it doesn't help. I'm not going to say it doesn't make things better. But if you have a good enough idea, and if you are entertaining or engaging enough, people are more than willing to look past some slightly choppy audio, a bit of a weird noise gate, a bit of delay or lag, or like 720p resolution, as long as you're not looking like a potato and sounding like your mic is reverbing through about several different dimensions, you'll be okay.
Well,
Even
I mean,
most $20 headset mics are
a
fine.
Peanut won like almost
Exactly.
content creator of the year, so
Yeah.
or not of the year, but
That has
won a
caused
bunch of awards.
so much incredible drama.
We're not gonna
in the
get into
VTuber
that,
sphere.
but like you could be a peanut and it could work. I'm just gonna say, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, he is literally doing that using like Windows camera effects from like 2008.
It's like a Snapchat filter, pretty much.
Literally,
and
pretty much.
He has, I think I saw him averaging like 50,000 viewers, and
Yeah.
he's just a small Snapchat filter peanut. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I genuinely, it is something that people are far too quick to overinvest in because they think they can buy their way into looking quote unquote professional. But the thing is, most viewers don't give a shit if you look professional or not. There's a lot. I will say there are a lot of small things you can do to make your setup look better and seem more appealing. The biggest thing is have scene transitions in OBS, have like a border or a layout or something. Those are things you can get either for free or for like $3. That's something I would recommend, something that makes your stream a bit more visually appealing, but you don't need to buy like a $300 XLR mic. You don't need to buy a $400 integrated capture card. Most of the time, as long as you are doing okay, I mean, I would say even if you're starting off and you don't even know if this is something you're going to like or going to want to do yet, something like a moderate high-end, like a moderate headset mic will be fine enough.
right.
Gear is something that really, really is radically oversold, and kind of how quote unquote important it is for a stream outside of like, but the thing is, you need to remember the main thing you're trying to sell here is yourself. Like, you are going to be the make or break point of your stream at the end of the day.
It's true. It's very, very true. And I really do agree. I think it's at least find out if you like it or not.
Yeah.
You know, like just get some cheap stuff.
See if it's
rip
something
it,
you want to do before investing.
Right, because again, that buddy of ours, I'm sure if he looked back, he'd probably kick it himself.
You do not need a $300 pop-up green screen. I'm sorry to
do
tell
not.
you this. It'll make for some very funny bits. I've got to be honest. There's some great ideas you can run with it, but it is not going to actually make the experience that much better.
Fully agree. Now, in your career, you did a lot of like retro games most of the time. You did play some more recent things here and there, but you kind of lean towards like the retro side of gaming. Why is that?
That's really hard to say, honestly, because I don't have too much of a concrete answer for that. I mean, I was mostly known for like Fire Emblem, specifically Fire Emblem 10. Like Radiant Dawn is the one that I think really saw, I think, the largest success on my channel, and that's because the randomizer for it existed. Which the randomizer for Fire Emblem 10 is a mess, and I love it to death. And I think that is kind of a large part of why so many of these were like retro or like older games that I played, is because it would always fell into two specific niches. Either it would be a game I knew well, that I knew I could talk about to a good degree and like be knowledgeable about, but also like be entertaining because it had like a randomizer or unique quality to it, or it was something I just wanted to show off, right? Like, this is a game that I felt was really underappreciated and would like to just talk about with people, or like maybe even show it to people who didn't know about it. Because I've got a bit of niche knowledge on a lot of different older titles, stuff like like Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, or like Fire Emblem 9 and 10, the old Ninja Gaiden Black games, and then I did kind of end up getting weirdly typecast as like a strategy game guy because of Fire Emblem. Like, I got really hit with like XCOM, and then XCOM 2 ended up doing very well, way more than I expected. But it was very fun. I was having a blast with it. I still play that on my own time sometimes. So it really was just kind of a weird series of events. I started with it just because it was something that felt doable. Like, I had the equipment to do older stuff. Like, I had an older capture card. I had a lot of retro games because I've always really enjoyed them myself. And I think it's something that is like fun to share with. There's a lot of games that really go overlooked because they aren't as pretty or as new. They're not the fun, shiny new toy. But I think a lot of older games are genuinely significantly better than a lot of what comes out now. because they were more targeted, they were more niche, so they had a lot more spirit put into them rather than trying to appeal to as many people as possible.
That makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I think very fondly of a lot of the older games that I played back in the day, and I'm very nostalgic about a lot of them too. And you know, there's a certain appreciation and beauty you get from the retro games. And you know, just to kind of give you funny little flowers here, you've always been good with like building things and sometimes numbers and graphs and trying to like figure out what'll go to what. And then you tend to like occasionally break the games that you play. And I've known you forever. So like you do have these moments, you know, where like, I'm like, how did he even pull that off? So then when you tell me the story, oh yeah, I read out of spite, knowing where you are since I have known you since like high school on, which was like years ago, I'm like, I believe it. I hate to say it. I want to be such a hater, but like I do believe it because you do end up doing stuff like that, and I'm just like so sick about it.
So many times it's by complete accident too. I will just like get struck by like a bolt from the blue style inspiration of like, wait, what happens if you kind of combine A and B here? And you went a bit of a different direction, I thought, because when you said you really often break games, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really good at finding bugs. I think that's something that like accidentally some of my favorite memories and clips from Twitch are like weird bugs or 1,001 cases that come up. Like The Messenger was a game I really enjoyed, a more modern but like it's like a newer game, but it's designed to be like an old Ninja Gaiden Metroidvania style game where we managed to clip through the kill plane at the bottom of the map, so we were off screen running beneath the map somehow and just perfectly fine. So we just completely bugged the map and were able to free roam through a side scroller. So we basically went out of bounds in a side scroller somehow, which was awesome. That was a ton of fun.
I don't even know how you do stuff like that. My God.
Yeah, we Ninja Gaiden Black, we had like 3 different clips of me just clipping through geometry or finding a way to like find a new bug, basically. Hung Ryu by his own scarf at one point. That was fun. By complete accident. Just all sorts of stuff like that. And then like, but when it comes to like breaking them mechanically, I think that is something I have almost forced to learn. I think weirdly enough, part of that really helped was learning to play card games when I was younger. Learning to play Magic the Gathering when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old unlocked a very specific type of brainworm in me that was like, just look to find small synergies. Look for little combos, things that'll work together. And most games really do not account for that. They will not account for the way that like 2 different unrelated pieces can potentially interact and then like go infinite, basically.
Right.
It's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering player in my head that's just kind of cycling on a little broken bicycle that sometimes fires off. Which is fun, I've got to be honest.
You know, you sometimes are in a league of your own with the way that you think about things. That is 100% where I'll leave that. But
still have that Digimon spreadsheet, by the way.
And honestly, God, I'm trying to move to the next thing here, but like, I was like, okay, I just want to do this thing on this recent Digimon game that came out. And then he blasts me with this massive spreadsheet, like, if you do this, and then this, and the numbers will do this, and you can do this. And I'm like, dog, I just wanted my Agumon to turn into a Greymon, and I'm like, I wasn't ready for all this. But, like, you really are a trove of knowledge when it comes to stuff like that, and I do pick up little things here and there. So, like, you're my go-to guy for a lot of those kind of knowledge nuggets that I need.
It's mostly unintentional, but I just kind of get focused on something and narrow down on it way more than I should. But you learn some cool stuff that way. Yeah,
no, my Omnimon was cracked, so no, thank you for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm here to. What can I hit?
But because you like kind of going back into the streaming stuff, kind of going back into all how you kind of ended up being the you know quote unquote strategy gamer, but you did end up playing mostly like retro style stuff. How did that affect your growth on the platform? Like, did you even care at all about the whole growth on the platform? Just like, what were your thoughts on that? Because it's a very niche thing, and like there are niche topics, but like retro is like niched. So like, how did that affect you?
Yeah, it had its pros and cons for sure. Because it is very weird. As the problem that a lot of people end up experiencing is that if you play what you want and don't like tunnel in on something, you will find that the vast majority of your audience is there for explicitly one thing.
Right.
Like I started with Fire Emblem and we saw like a couple people, like 3 or 4 people come in, which, you know, sounds pretty small, but in the scheme of things, like is actually that's surprising to have like your third stream have like 6 viewers is like, oh, well, damn. In hindsight, that's pretty cool. But then that really did stagnate and kind of like stop at like 6 to 7 individual mark in Path of Radiance. And it wasn't until we did Radiant Dawn's randomizer that we started seeing a couple more people flow in that were like, oh, I like this. And also it's different than what I'm used to. And then started like telling people kind of in the smaller Fire Emblem community, like, hey, this is a guy that's doing things with it. So when we were doing the Radiant Dawn randomizer, we probably got to like 15-ish people, which was, you know, for my standards at the time, kind of insane. That's way more than I certainly ever. It's if I streamed Radiant Dawn right now with 15 people, I would be #1 in the category, and it's not close.
Right.
But the problem is, because it is such kind of like a small community, there really is like a pretty strict ceiling to what you can accomplish there, right?
Right.
Which was really tough, and that is part of why when we made the decision to like when I was talking with someone, they're like, well, XCOM 2, it was someone in chat at the time who's like, yeah, XCOM 2 is pretty close, and there's a mod that's really interesting for it. And I was like, well, it does sound really fun. Like Long War of the Chosen like makes it way harder, way more involved with resource management, stuff like that. And I was like, this does sound really interesting, so I will check it out. And we tried that out and actually saw mixed results. A lot of the people who were there for Fire Emblem more than strategy games specifically, because there was a lot less crossover than I anticipated.
Right.
It's kind of the same way, like, oh, there's a lot of people who like hero shooters, but people who like Overwatch and Overwatch 2 don't necessarily like to watch Marvel Rivals. That Venn diagram is
which is so
farther
weird
from a circle than you would think.
It's the same game. I'm a casual. I'm a casual, but like from my mouth breathing perspective, Marvel Rivals and Overwatch are the same game but different font.
The difference is Marvel Rivals is fun.
Let's not open up that can of worms right now, but you know, let's go back on the growth from the platform, okay?
Yeah.
So how did that affect your growth, and you know, what was your mindset?
We did get like a surprisingly decent fall off from that, of going from like 16 to sometimes 20 to like 8 to 10 again, and mostly people who were like either, oh yeah, I'm invested in the streamer like trademark, or like it's just another strategy game, I'll check it out. But then XCOM was like a much more notorious brand, believe it or not. XCOM was pretty popular, and we saw another pretty significant spike in growth from the XCOM stuff up to like 20 to like mid-20s at one point.
Right.
Which again, I know this is all pretty small in comparison to like a lot of the more notorious streamers, but as small as like
I mean, anyone who's like a small streamer, you're crushing right now. Yeah,
you're thinking like, oh shit, I'm on my way.
Right. Because going under the umbrella again, that if you're about roughly 5 viewers, you're the top 2%. So if you got 15, 20, you're like in the actual 1%, which is like a crazy way to like perceive that.
Yeah, and like I was lucky enough that I was making a decent amount of money off of it at this point in time too, like an almost 4-digit amount, which is wild to think about.
People go years without a single payout. So yeah, absolutely.
I had a lot of very generous people at the time in the community, which was appreciated. But it was really weird to see kind of how little of that intersect was there, and how little of it transferred, because so many people are there either for an individual or for a specific IP that they're attached to, rather than a genre of game.
And for anybody who doesn't know, what's an IP?
Basically like an intellectual property, something that is like capital F Fire Emblem or XCOM or Call of Duty. Like a lot of people who play Call of Duty will not play or like Battlefield. Now that has intersected a lot more recently, but it used to be, when I was younger anyway, you either played Call of Duty or you played Battlefield. You did not play one or the other. Much in the same way you watched Nickelodeon or you watched Cartoon Network, not both. So that's basically what an IP is. It's basically like a franchise, easier way to put it.
Okay.
So yeah, I did notice a pretty significant growth, especially a pretty significant drop off in growth because of that, just because of how niche each individual category was. Despite their extreme similarities, being very similar types of like real-time strategy games, basically, or not real-time, but like strategy adjacent games. There really wasn't much crossover, so we dropped off. We picked up a lot more because XCOM was a little bit more than Fire Emblem, but the second I then transferred from XCOM to something else, I think it was either back to Fire Emblem or oh god, I don't remember what I did after XCOM. That was a while ago. But we did notice a 70% drop off, right?
Right.
Like going from like 20, 25 people to like 7 to 10 again.
Right.
So that's something that is always really hard to come up with, is like, while growth is possible in specific categories, the rate at which you can lose it just by no longer doing the thing you were consistently already doing, or like changing game because you don't want to keep kind of beating that same dead horse, right? It is surprising how quickly you can grow something and notice it and see what you're doing well, but for it to still just not be enough. Because now you're playing something else or doing something a little bit different that kind of kills all of that forward momentum or loses people's interest.
So when that happens, though,
yeah,
when you are going from your 25,
Yeah.
whatever, and then you go back down to like 7, 5, 3, where's your head at?
The nearest Home Depot.
I mean, I get it though. It's like that's tough, dude.
It
That's
is.
so
I mean,
tough.
it really is. This is. It's hard to say because this is a challenge that I know is very. It's not unique to myself, but it's something I do always have a perpetual issue with, which is I will always blame myself first and foremost. So my first thought isn't like, oh, it's because they just don't want to watch the game I'm playing right now, or they're just not very interested, or people are like busy or whatever. It's like, what did I do wrong? It's because I was not funny enough, I was not interesting enough, I was not like capital E entertaining enough, I wasn't doing enough for it, which then kind of like doubles down kind of on that previously mentioned like imposter syndrome kind of style concept, where like oh, I'm just not capable of doing this, like I am not enough of either like skilled, interesting, funny to do this, right? And kind of letting like kind of getting hit over the head with that and feeling like this is a level of like empirical evidence, like, oh, this is now numerical proof that you are not entertaining or funny. That is fucking rough. That is like a brutal feeling to experience, because it is kind of like getting rejected by multiple people at the same time, right? And the only real way to deal with that is to kind of understand that, like, no, it's not necessarily you. It really, there is like a lot of different factors to it, like whether it was timing, whether it was about a specific game. You're not going to mesh with everyone. You need to understand that, like, something that's really hard that I feel like a lot of people struggle with is understanding that you do need to kind of continue to set individual boundaries with viewers as well, and you need to be willing to lose potential viewers to be able to actually much more concretely integrate the audience you do have that is willing to stick around. That same concept of, if you try to appeal to everyone, you're going to appeal to no one. You're going to be just kind of a fad that will die at the end of the day, because you are not actually creating anything for yourself. You're going to appeal very shallow. But striking that boundary between like that desire for growth and to kind of like see number go up, and kind of feel like you are making forward momentum, and then kind of losing it, is always super disheartening. And I wish I had a better answer for like how you deal with that, because I don't know. That is something that is like one of the largest hurdles I have, is also now being like out of it for as long as I have, due to kind of some extenuating circumstances that this plays no small part in, right? And then coming back and being like, yeah, I can remember a time where I was streaming to like double-digit number of people, and now it's like 4. That is so tough. Because it does feel like you are the problem there, right?
I mean, you are the brand, you are the content, so if it doesn't work, then it's like you think to yourself, well, you are the problem.
Much in the same way I was like, yeah, when at the end of the day, the thing you are trying to sell with your stream is you and your personality. That does mean when people don't like it, they don't like you or your personality.
And
that's tough.
I do appreciate you being very honest about that, because there's really no one size fits all answer to deal with that, like that slump, in viewership, and whether you're, a streamer, or whether you're a musician changing up your genre or your sound, or you're an artist and you're changing up your style a little bit, like you're gonna lose people, and that's something you got to learn how to deal with.
And it's not something that's like unique to small creators either, right? Like it's something you see happen with even like larger, and obviously larger creators have a lot more wiggle room to work within, because you do find, like, especially in the creative sphere, you have that snowball effect of once you get large enough, it is very hard to fail. Just because you have enough of an integrated audience that is there for you more than anything else you're doing, that they are kind of like the real ride or dies, right? But when you're
long as that foundation is there, if it's not there, I've seen someone pivot and lose everything. They crash out, understandably.
This is kind of like a bit of a niche experience, but Armada is a known streamer who used to be a known Melee, like he's considered probably the single best Smash Melee player, if not in contention for all-time GOAT status of all time. He retired from Melee a couple years ago, has been streaming Mario 64 speedruns. He is now saying, and he's been doing Mario 64 speedruns for like probably 5 or 6 years now, but he is now like, I might have to find a real job because after stopping Melee and just streaming Mario 64 for like 6 years, I am not making enough money to survive anymore. And this is someone who everyone did think was, again, kind of in that too big to fail because of his notoriety as like a professional and competitive player, someone who still coaches for the game, someone who's like a top 10 Mario 64 speedrunner, but still just because of he's been doing the same thing for so long, and it's not what people really want, it really is starting to show cracks that you are not infallible. It's one of those things that really kind of, to me anyways, opened the eyes of like, wow, that's... I didn't think that was a thing that was possible for him anymore. That's kind of horrifying to think about.
Yeah, and you would think that like him being the like, because his thing was the professional player, right?
Yeah.
That was his whole entire thing. And
He
like,
was like the ice player, like the one who was like.
I would say that everyone has like a thing, more or less, multiple things, some more than others, that kind of help them give their like unfair advantage.
Yeah.
There's like a guy on YouTube that uses that phrase a lot, and it's like Ali Abdal, and he like does a lot of productivity stuff. Love that guy.
That's because fairness is a myth.
Well, everyone has their own, competitive advantage, and I would even say that like even when it comes to like one of the unfair advantages I would say is that you have a ability to do like a very good improv. Like you're a good yes and you love a good bit.
I do.
And it's such a strength because I've talked to so many people in my life, so many like an innumerable amount of people, and not everyone can go there like I can with like you and maybe one or two other people in my entire life still to this day in my mid-30s. So like I would argue that is like such a great thing that you have, and I think that you use it very well. Do you think that most creators need to have that to succeed, or can they just be like...
Yes.
Elaborate on that.
100%. I think the content, the sphere, I think it is significantly more challenging to become known and like a top level quote unquote creator, streamer, whatever you want to call, strictly from like the metric of your own talent, of like what you're doing, of like being good at something, than it is to just be entertaining. Just because that is not the content people want. People are less interested in seeing someone perform at a high level or do something cool consistently. It's something that is great for clips. It is great to like post on Twitter and get retweeted, but you're not really going to be sustainable in that sense. But being funny is something that is repeatable. It's something you can make like a brand out of, right? This is something that you can like make like a career and a channel and like a stream out of. One of the biggest things you see is kind of that ability to kind of like pivot in a lot of ways, because it also means you are not as tied to this one core idea. A thing a lot of professional players see is if they're really good at one game and that game is popular, they're going to pop off. That game is no longer popular, they drop 90% of their viewer base in a day.
Right.
But if you are known more for your personality, for being funny, for being entertaining, for being like quippy, or in whatever sort of like subcategory there you fall into, you're going to have a lot more people who are willing to ride it out because they think you're engaging and fun to be around. And there's like a lot of different ways you can say that, whether you think that's like a good thing or a bad thing, whether you think that's part of like this, ADHD, TikTok, brain rot style, whatever the hell people want to call it now. Don't.
6,
I saw that. 8, 9. Ha ha ha.
Oh my god, that's a boomer retort. Anyway,
I know, right? I've been using that to kill that bit for people to surprising success.
That is so funny,
dude. It is killer.
Anyway, though, competitive advantages, though, being funny is definitely one of them. Having a certain level of wit is one of them. And people
for the love
use
of God, take
that,
an improv class.
Well, I mean, you could also do that too, and that will help so much for so many different people if you're able to do that. But if not, I think everyone, if you dig deep enough, everyone's got something. Okay, there are people who are just naturally attractive. You have male models, you have women models, people who are just like beautiful, and then what they end up doing is they end up putting out like makeup lines and beauty stuff, or the guys are putting out workout regimens or whatever, and they're just jacked, and I'm like, oh my god, the New Year's around the corner, or it's already here. I need to get in the gym. It just depends on who you're seeing, and once you figure out that competitive advantage of yours, then you can lean into it, and I think that'll really help build a community around stuff like that as well.
Which I think is very true. I don't think it's impossible to do. I think it is harder. I think it is a lot harder, and there are cases I have even personally witnessed where like being known for being good at something or knowledgeable about something does kind of have, I would say, almost a harder cap than just being entertaining to watch. I think the best thing you can do is be both.
Well, yeah,
which is
both
obvious.
is ideal. But like, if you're, this is what I've seen though. If you are, let's just say, like, someone's unfair advantage is, I am really good at, like I was even saying with you, I'm really good at numbers and building things and making these cracked like characters in video games that can like one shot someone, just because you can just find the makeup of it and then become like a like a gaming witch and then do the concoction and just poof, it blows up. Now you have the ability to do that, and you do it in one game and you do it really well. But if you pivot to another game and go, how can we break this? How can you break this? They're now tuning into you, not because you're the funniest, not because you are like the wittiest, but you are smart AF. And they're like, oh my God, how's he going to break this thing next? So like, that's another unfair advantage that people can tap into.
Potentially. And that's kind of cycles back to a lot of, I guess, what I was talking about initially, which is like, who is this for? I think one of the better things you can do is kind of, again, because that question does boil back down to of like, it can almost circle around, or at least very much so relate to, of like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Like, what do you want your identity to be? And that's not a question you always have to ask as much, I don't think. I think there are a lot of times where that is something you will just discover naturally. And I think that's okay. I think you do have to kind of fumble a little bit and kind of trip and fall until you find out what it is that is successful for you. I think a lot of people do start as like, yeah, I'm going to be the smart, knowledgeable one who has like a bunch of guides and cool tips and tricks, and then they realize they're funnier than they thought. Or
yeah, but like, you got to realize too, it's like, I want to be the funny guy, but you are not funny. But you're like, no, I'm the funny guy, but you have never cracked a good joke in your life. And you have to be so real with yourself. Yes. Because if you're not, then, but granted though, that's where feedback kind of comes in handy, in my opinion.
You have to be willing to take that feedback, and you also have to be willing to change that preconception of yourself. You have to be willing to be like, very much so. Which is tough, because I think there is a certain level of narcissism you have to be able to be a successful content creator.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, just putting yourself on camera alone is like, all right, everyone's gonna look at me now.
Being able to have that mentality that's just like, no, or like, if you do have that unflinching mentality of like, no, I am funny, smart, clever enough to make a brand out of myself. I'm like, oh, you're insane. You are like narcissistic, but good for you for monetizing it. That's impressive.
Right. Which, to be fair, I would even say,
I'm not saying
that,
everyone
like,
is.
Right, not everyone's this full blown out like Dexter the TV show narcissist, where you're just like some sociopath. Like, I would even argue there's like a sliver between like narcissism and like confidence, and you're like, all right, cool, this is my unfair advantage, I want to do it. Like, there's a line there.
There is a large sliding scale. Yes. I think everyone who is a content creator has somewhere on that scale. But there is a very large sliding scale between, I think maybe I could do this, versus, I know I am God's gift to content.
Yes, that definitely does exist.
Which is like, that's very much so an important distinction. But I do think that is something that is kind of worth mentioning and noting, and also kind of being a little bit wary of, that you don't get a little overinflated.
Get lost in the sauce, yeah.
Yeah, like I have seen people who have like, you know, I got 6 viewers recently, and now I am the single funniest person you've ever met. And I'm like, dude, you need to chill out. You need to take a step back. 3 of them are your coworkers who put you on in the background and tab out. Not saying that's a bad thing to do. By all means, you should do that for your friends and support them.
True, lurkers.
But there is a difference between people who randomly stumbled in and said, oh, I like them, they're entertaining, and your mother who is watching you from the kitchen while she's doing literally anything else. Sorry, that one felt a little mean for no reason.
No, I mean, honestly, that's kind of, I'm here to pick your brain, man, and I need some real, and I would argue, anyone who's listening to this, okay, is, if you're doing it for fun, this had nothing to do with you a long time ago, okay? If you're doing this for fun, this is not for you. You can still hang out here, obviously, but like ultimately for anyone who is like, I'm interested, or I really want to know what they're going through because I just started streaming and I went from 25 to 6 to 3, and how did he deal with it? Because I'm not alone, because I saw that he's struggling with it too. So this is for the people who are trying to, for other creators. So I'm talking to creators for creators, basically.
It's why I do think the biggest thing you can ask, and I'll reiterate this for the 7th time on this fucking episode, is genuinely ask yourself, who is this for? Is this for you because you want to do it, or because it's a passion project of yours or something you're interested, or are you doing this because you want to succeed and monetize it and grow? Those are two very radically different approaches you have to take and consider. That is the biggest thing I can say. If you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for fun because you want it to be a hobby, a thing you do, a thing you enjoy, a thing that makes you happy, that is great. Do not give a shit about anything else. Just enjoy it. Anything else that comes from it at that point, gravy. If you want to make a career out of it, or intentionally make this something that you're doing for a living, you're gonna have to do some uncomfortable things, some uncomfortable searching, and a lot more number crunching than you ever would have anticipated.
True. Very true.
Which sucks, because it turns out, does it beat your 9 to 5? Yes. Is it still a job? Also, yes.
Yes. It's a lot of work, and whenever it's funny too, because this is the last thing I'll touch on before I go to the next thing here, but there was a big controversy that it strikes up like every year at some point, I argue. They go, is streaming harder than a 9 to 5? And everyone was like, oh my god, it's so much harder. But the people who were saying that were like the bigger creators, and they're like, it's really not. And some of them were like even admitting that they're not. It was kind of like a weird divide at the top level, but at the bottom level, it was like, it's harder than a 9 to 5 because at least you get paid when you go to a 9 to 5. I'm streaming every day I get off of work, and I'm not getting paid for the 4, 5, 6 hours I'm doing this every single day, for multiple hundreds of hours a month, and you get nothing out of it. You get no return. But if I get a paycheck, I clock in, I clock out. They're two different types of hard, but then when you stack them together and you do a 9 to 5 and you're not getting paid for this,
awful.
God, it is just it's a mentally taxing thing that I've been realizing more and more the longer I do it, that you got to be kind of masochistic at a certain level to keep going.
Also, my biggest piece of advice, I think, that I almost even forgot about, that I think is a very easy trap for new people to fall into: do not stream every day.
You don't
do
need
not
to
go live every day for 5 to 8 hours. No one wants to see that. All you're going to do is push away a lot of regular viewers, because it's too much, and you're also going to get burnt out and tired. You are going to hate this. You need to do something, even if you are making a career, much in the same way with a job. It needs to be sustainable. You need to not log on, be exhausted, because you're not going to be funny. You're not going to be good. You're not going to be making anything interesting. If you are burnt out, tired from streaming 8 days, like 8 hours a day for a whole week, no one's going to want to watch that. You need to find a good medium, and a lot of times less is more. Do not stream 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, or I would even say 4 or 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. Stream like 3-4 days a week tops, unless you are really built different. Right.
And honestly, that kind of brings me to a different, point of this topic here, because you do get burnt out. You do get tired. And whether you're doing crazy 12-hour streams every single day, Monday through Friday or not, it is a marathon, not a sprint. And at some point, you do kind of just get exhausted. And for you specifically, while you were doing the streaming stuff, you were in college, and you were going to school and trying to work and doing all these different things. Like, how did you juggle all of these things?
I was working a part-time job about 20 to 24 hours a week. I was going to college full-time, and I was streaming about 3 to 4 days a week. How I managed that is I cut out sleep.
Not great.
Or I would cut out college work, which is also less than ideal. I was on academic probation about 2 or 3 separate times, I think. But that was also while I was in a major I did not like and was in like a rough spot in general. So that's a little unrelated.
Right.
The easiest thing I found was, and this is not advice I would recommend to people, but it is how I dealt with it. I did not have like a set schedule for anything. I just wung it at every, like, or winged it at every single point. Like, oh, I feel like I have time, I'm just gonna go live. I feel like I'm feeling up to streaming, I'm just gonna do it. I don't have time, so I'm not going to today. And having a Discord where I could publicly announce things even a little bit in advance did help a lot. Anyone who was interested could just join for free, pop in, they'd be able to say hi, shit post, do whatever. It was, and that's something I would recommend, actually, just on a tertiary point, is make like an easy community Discord that's easy to join and just talk with people. It's having to moderate it might suck, especially once you start getting to like a point where you're growing more than you can handle. But that's like a bridge that you'll have to cross eventually, but not for a long time. But having something like that you can communicate with and like even post announcement in, super nice. But to manage like, the actual, yeah.
So basically, you were juggling school and everything, and you were going live whenever you were able to. The standard advice is have a set schedule. Did it ever, like, how did it help you? Did it hurt you worse than you thought it did? Like, what happened?
There were multiple points in times I tried having like a set schedule of like Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Having a schedule versus not, I don't know whether it's just because I cultivated a community that was so used to me not having one or not. I never noticed a difference with it. I never noticed a single tangible difference on whether I had set streaming times or not. People showed up. They showed up. If they didn't, they didn't. But having a schedule, even for like having a schedule I followed for a year or longer, had no noticeable impact whatsoever.
No kidding. That's a ride or die community right there.
Right. And the thing, I mean, I will say streaming more frequently did help. So like saying that like I don't know what days it'll be, but I'm going to stream 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes it was Monday, Tuesday, like Thursday, Friday. Other days it was like Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Did that pretty consistently, and I did still notice steady, continual growth. But having like a set schedule really didn't impact anything, which did surprise me. Admittedly, I did think I made one. I really kind of went through my head thinking what would work, made it, stuck with it for a while. No difference.
No kidding.
Yeah, because, I mean, sometimes people are available, other times they're not, and the times at which people are going to find you are something you really can't account for. And I have found, in my experience anyway, a lot of times when people find you the first time, if they fuck with you, they fuck with you, and they stick around, they'll follow, they'll get notifications, they'll join the Discord, etc., etc. And if they don't, they just don't. Whether you're streaming again tomorrow isn't going to matter if they didn't want to follow you in the first place. It's not like they're going to watch your stream, be like, oh, he's kind of interesting, I see his schedule's there tomorrow, I might pop in tomorrow.
Right.
If they are interested, they're going to follow you, and then they'll see you and just join whenever you're live. I have found the schedule to be something that is admittedly a bit redundant in a lot of ways. Because a lot of times it is that first impression where people are like deciding whether they're going to follow you or not, and then that's really the make or break point. And whether you're live every Monday versus whenever you go live is really going to be kind of the only difference of who is exposed to you at that point in time. But
that's fair, honestly. And you did seem a lot, happier whenever you were able to just do it whenever you could. So like it was a good balance that worked like great for you.
I do not do well with schedules. If something is like scheduled, it just pisses me off.
That's fair. It's not for everybody.
Too boxed in. Yeah, I've got that like I've recently found I have like an autism ADHD mix basically that does not mesh well with like set scheduled stuff. It is not. Right. It is not for me. Yeah.
But as time did go on, though, and things were just kind of happening in your life. At a certain point, the streams did kind of slow down, and you seem to have taken a step back from streaming in a big way.
Yeah.
Now, without going like too into it, though, at some point you did have a health scare, like that.
Oh yeah,
could have objectively killed you, like genuinely.
I'm not going to go into like too many details. I was, by the doctor's note, about 30 to 45 minutes away from just being dead. My blood was toxic.
Terrifying, because like I was on the other side of that, trying to get a hold of your parents.
Yeah.
They were trying to get a hold of me, and we just didn't know what was going to happen with you. And
Yeah.
from my perspective, that was just terrifying. So like you going through that, I couldn't even imagine any of that. Like how did that, you know, like you're taking a step back from the content stuff, that life-threatening thing happens to you. Like what's going through your head?
It's really weird because I feel like out of everyone who was impacted by that, I feel like I was almost impacted the least. Because it really didn't. It's weird to say it didn't phase me much, or whether it just hasn't sunk in or something. Because this was like 2 years ago now. If we're talking about how it impacted streaming in particular,
Everything.
yeah. Because for me, it really was. I mean, there's a lot to go into there, but I was just kind of like, yeah, that happened. What am I gonna do? I'm apparently very tough to kill. I've bounced back surprisingly well. Most people who like have something like that happen, where basically their blood is literally poisonous to them at this point. A triple infection, including like a VRE infection that went through stage 5 kidney shutdown. I had to go through 3 months of dialysis and then like an additional 6 months of physical therapy. Like a whole slew of events, and now I am basically like back to full power. Like I have no long-term damage that we're aware of yet for this, which is shocking to say the least, but I'm not mad about it. The biggest way it impacted sort of, I would say, streaming in general is that I live with my parents again now. After kind of going to the hospital, I had to give up the apartment because I was not like physically able to live on my own afterwards, because I had to do 3 months in the hospital, 3 months of an extended hospital stay, 3 weeks of which was in the ICU. And then I had to go home, but afterwards I still had to do 6 months of monitored physical therapy. I basically was like unable to walk unassisted for like 6 months at a time, basically. So that was rough. So I had to move in back home with family. And since then, I have not been able to find an apartment because I had to give up a job as well, and finding a new job, and then saving up money to get an apartment, especially when housing around here is miserable. Like an apartment I was renting before that was $7,700, like $770, is now $1,400.
Yeah, and a lot of that has kind of just gone up over time.
Yeah,
and stuff
housing
like that.
in general, even like across the entire United States, has been like miserable recently.
Right,
and then
1000%.
like streaming, when you're not kind of in your own environment, when you have to deal with like other people who you're living with, or like not having your own space or a way to do so, is particularly a lot more challenging.
Right.
Because especially for me, because it is like, I don't know, it feels kind of embarrassing to be like, yeah, you know, I'm streaming and you can hear something in the background or hear other people, or like my parents especially, right? Like that really is, that's very frustrating. And then it also kind of like, and that additionally compounds with what I talked about a little bit earlier, where it's like I still feel like I go back and watch a lot of my old VODs and other videos, and I'm like, why would anyone watch this?
Right.
I do not get it. I do not think I'm interesting. I do not think I'm funny.
I don't think you're alone in that thinking, though.
No,
I think a lot
I'm
of
really
people feel
not.
that way.
I'm very critical of myself in a lot of ways, which is I think my biggest downfall in a lot of capacities. And it's to my benefit sometimes, but not as frequently as it is like just, you know, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
My God.
So that's rough.
Yeah, but like you have been down, you know, and you've taken a step back for like a little bit now. How has not streaming for a little bit like affected you in your mental health? You feeling better these days? You feeling like I got to get back out there? Like realistically, like how are you feeling these days?
It is something I think about a lot, because I do consider it sometimes. I think I streamed, like, seeing my Twitch recap and being like, yeah, you streamed like 5 or 7 times this year, and like 5 of them were my Aria of Sorrow tournament runs. And I'm like, that is bleak. That is less than ideal. But it has been nice because it is a large chunk of time to take out of your day to kind of stream, right? And finding the free time to do that, the mental capacity to do that, is really tough. So having more of that time to myself to do what I want, or kind of like even just to like just chill out, to just sit down, watch something, lay down, whatever, is nice. I'm not going to deny that. But I do miss it in a lot of ways, because it is something that is fun. It is something that gave like that sense of community. It's something that is really kind of like engaging in a lot of ways. It's something that forced me to play games more, which is something I've been astoundingly bad at doing on my own time. And it's something I do think about a lot. It's something that I have a couple friends, even a couple people who aren't necessarily friends, but like old community members who are like, hey, is this like ever going to happen again?
Right.
Shout out to, there's one guy in my Discord who still occasionally posts there or will like tag me and stuff that he sees. It's just like, hey, just thought you'd like to see this. Hope we see you soon. And I'm like, you're
nice.
a real one. You know what? That is, you don't
That's
know
rare.
me personally. We don't talk. We don't engage on a personal level at all.
Which
But
left an
he is
impression
still
on him.
trying, right?
Yeah.
And it does make it weird to me too, to think like when I go live, I'm like, maybe there's 4 people there now, and it's like, you know, it's like some combination of you, Travis, Chase, and like Drax or someone else. And it is frustrating me to be like, yeah, these are like my friends though, they're there. And then I do need to, I think, stop and remember that like 3 of those 4 people I met through streaming on Twitch.
Right.
Travis, like, or Vax, Chase, or Shadow Link for anyone who knows him from Twitch chat, and Drax are all people that I met through Twitch. That like just came into my stream and I did, and like then they really liked me and I ended up fucking with them too. Which is rare, but it does happen that you like find a viewer you do actually like enough that you like become real friends with.
Right.
Which is so that is something I think about a lot sometimes and think like maybe I should do it again, but it still is just like, for me personally, the biggest hurdle is thinking that like I just don't know why anyone would watch this, and then remembering like where I was at a point to where I would have to restart from now is a personal gripe of mine that I am very bad at dealing with. I have never been good at like having made progress at something and then losing it, and at that point I'm like, oh, this is just dead to me now. Like I am just cutting this off entirely. It's something I'm noticing even with like Japanese. Like I minored in Japanese in college. I was doing really well. I was like almost like semi-fluent in it basically, but I have not studied it for like 2.5 years now. Try not to think about that timing too much. And I know I'm a lot rustier with it, and it makes it a lot harder for me to even consider going back to try studying it or getting better at it again, because I know I'm going to have to retread a lot of those same steps. And that is like one of my biggest personal like frustrations that I really struggle with.
Right. If you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like I know that that's the case, and I know I'd probably remember more than I'm thinking, but it is something that still is really particularly hard for me that I have a large like barrier to in a lot of ways. Okay. So it's like a compounding series of events.
Well, while you've been gone, you've done some pretty cool stuff. You went to a thing in Dallas.
Yeah, for Elestrals. Cool
Elestrals, yeah, exactly. And you went to a convention called Supernova, and you got some pretty cool art and met a creator named Connie.
Yeah. Coney is here's my Supernova hat, which is a big. It is like, it used to be called Super Smash Con. Which was like, it's basically like the biggest Super Smash Brothers major of the year. They play every single Smash Brothers game from Smash 64 up to the most recent one. It's great, ton of fun.
I love that.
And like I've been a part of the Smash community since I was pretty young, and I still watch a lot of people from it. And it's one of those series I've been very invested in.
Okay.
Very fun.
And I mean, it looked like a lot of fun. I saw some of the pictures. Yeah. It was cool. You got to meet that creator.
Coney is great. One of my goats. Most watched Twitch streamer this year.
What does he do? Who is Coney?
Okay, so Coney is interesting in that he started out as a commentator actually for Smash Bros. He started out as a player in Brawl, but then was mostly known as a commentator for Brawl, Smash 4, and now Ultimate. But he was like one of the few commentators that was actually like, good at the job. Like he was interesting, he was funny, he was engaging. He started streaming on his own. I started watching him when he was pretty small. I would say like 100 to like maybe like eventually like a couple hundred people. And now he pulls like 2,000 to 3,000 on average, which has been really cool to see actually.
Nice.
But now he's like a general kind of like just chatting almost streamer, or like a reaction, a lot of gaming stuff too. But a lot of like, the reason I like him is he does a lot of really funny, stupid bits or like stream concept ideas that is very fun, that is like engaging with chat. Like stuff like Who Asked, or like Fact or Fiction, which is like, yeah, chat can submit like their own thing that they think is like an idea, and chat gets to vote on whether this is fact or fiction, which is really fun. Like guess that character style stuff. Like I have a character held hostage in this lockbox. Chat has 10 guesses to figure out who it is. and if they fail, I ban the 10 chatters who guessed the character for the day. Stupid shit like that I'm a sucker for.
Okay.
It's carnival games is what it is. It's carnival games, and I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a ton of fun. Highly recommend. He is probably like one of my favorite people on the platform at the moment. Like him, MBT are two of the people that I like actively go to Twitch for. Also,
that's
but
awesome.
I figured that was an obvious case considering where I am.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
Speaking of, got to meet MBT in Dallas. That was really cool. Got a photo with him. He signed my full art Dra King. That was sick.
No kidding. Nice.
Yeah, right?
Now, this entire time, you've had a bunch of like ups and downs, and you've learned so much in your like 10 years, basically almost of streaming. There was one last thing I wanted to touch on when I was like kind of going through your stuff, and you've probably already seen it, but on your very first YouTube video that you posted 8 years ago, there was one comment that was left on it from literally 1 year ago. And do you remember that comment is?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, the comment, it says, okay, and this guy is a great friend of yours that you met on that first stream, actually.
Yeah.
And the comment says, 10 out of 10 would go on this journey with you again.
Yeah.
And reading that now, 8 years after that's been posted, seeing that he went back a year from now to even write that comment, what are your thoughts when you see that?
I'm such an emotional jackass. I'm like, it is hard not to get almost like a little misty eyed over that, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man? Don't do that. Lame. Don't tell me how much I mean to you. Stop it. I don't know. I guess it's weird to think about, right? Because I touched on it almost a little bit, because that'd be Travis or Vax or Darkly, as his username is on YouTube. It's still genuinely crazy to me to think about that. There's this asshole who showed up out of the blue the first time I ever went live with Fire Emblem and just never left. He has been there at quite literally every single stream I have ever done at one point or another. I don't think he's ever missed a single one that I can think of. He was the first person to ever sub to the channel and has not dropped it, still has it to this day. Back when I first got affiliate. He has become one of my closest friends. I'm flying down to visit him here in like 2 weeks, actually, to visit him and his wife. And that is like a crazy thing to think about, right? That like this is someone I had met by complete sheer happenstance online through Twitch, and just ended up forming like what I'm hoping to be like a lifelong friendship with them, right? So I guess I don't know. I guess I kind of lost the thread of the question there a little bit, but
no, not at all. Just kind of how that made you feel,
Yeah, it is surreal in a lot of ways. The way that you can like just connect with, and I think at the end of the day, that is the real reason I ever did kind of start streaming, is to kind of like make a connection with someone, or not even with someone, but like a community, in a sense of like, this is a game I'm really passionate about, that I like a lot, that I can talk a lot about, and maybe someone else will too. And that ended up being true in a way that I really didn't expect with a couple other people, but him more so. Him and I, a lot in common. There's a reason we're like we've kind of developed the relationship that we have, ups and downs along the way with it, and that is something that why I really do say, like, if it is something you're even remotely interested in, I think it is worth kind of just trying out. Even if it doesn't work out, maybe you will meet someone interesting, maybe you'll have a good experience, and maybe you won't. There's no guarantee to anything, but I think it is something that if you were even remotely or tertiarily interested in, just, it's easier to do now than it has ever been to just go live and make something. Like, you don't have to make a difference, you don't have to make a big change, you don't have to be a big content creator, just make something. And that is more than enough. And that's some advice maybe I should take for myself too. But just making anything at all, or doing anything at all, or just putting yourself out there at least a little bit is oftentimes way more monumental than you think it is. And the people you can impact along the way is something you can never truly anticipate, but you would be surprised.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this podcast. Thank you for sharing a lot of like vulnerable things that you've gone through and your genuine mindset on a lot of these topics that are probably a little bit tougher to kind of like, you know, bring to people. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not going to lie about that, but I think it is kind of like a worthwhile endeavor to do. It's something that is, even on a personal level, something that is, I would say, worth doing and examining at some point or another. And talking about it is always something that is helpful in some capacity.
Well, in the event you happen to one day boot up a stream in your usual unscheduled fashion,
I have been considering about it a lot quite recently.
Where can people find you?
You can find me if you want to watch any of the VODs that exist. Why would you? I don't know, but they are there. You can go to youtube.com/VAATI Vaati4554. It's been my namesake since I was 7 years old and first made that account on newgrounds.com, and it's never changed. Should it? Yes, but it hasn't. And you can also go to twitch.tv/Vaati VAATI4554, and sometimes I do stuff there. We even have cool little emotes, but, you know, some of which are even free. They're fun. I like them a lot. And I'm hoping to be able to do something with that here. I've really been thinking about it a lot. But if nothing else, I know you can find me next year around summer for the Speed Gaming Live Castlevania Aria of Sorrow randomizer tournament.
Nice. I love that.
Maybe
you got
this
really
time
good
I'll
at that,
place,
man.
More than I expected. I got called out by Luicho for having imposter syndrome, which was very funny because I placed 3rd or 4th overall. And I'm like, I have no clue how I got here. I do not deserve to be here. And he's like, yes, you do. Shut up. You've gotten very good at this. And I'm like, well, I disagree, but thank you.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
fun game. Play Aria of Sorrow.
For the end of this, I'm trying to get a tradition going that I have completely stolen from another podcast, where it's from the Diary of a CEO, and he ends the podcast with asking you a question from the previous guest. I'm going to keep it a buck. I forgot the question. With that being said,
I fucking love it here.
Oh my god! Hey, listen, this is episode
change.
2. We're ironing the kinks out. Okay, it's episode 2.
The what?
So anyway, with that being said, so, you know, I'll ask you the question, even though, again, Thunder Scepter 11, I am so sorry. I love you like a brother. My guy. Listen, yeah, great guy. But my question to you is, what is, or what has been one of your greatest accomplishments in your life?
In my life? Oh man, that is surprisingly tough, actually. I mean, I think one of the obvious answers would be, like, you know, getting my degree was always something, like learning Japanese and like getting a history degree was something I was really heavily dissuaded against, but it's something I did choose to do for my own sake. It's something I knew would be maybe a questionable idea when it comes to like career prospects, but it's something I really liked. Was one of the rare things I was genuinely passionate about and enjoyed doing. I did really like getting it. I hesitate to say it was an accomplishment because it's something that felt easy to me, but I guess that doesn't make it any less of an accomplishment, right?
Absolutely.
But also, I don't know. That actually is a surprisingly tough question to ask. I think that would be up there for sure. And one of the ones that actually would be up there would be the rate at which I have improved at Aria of Sorrow. It's a game I've gone out of my way to actually practice, like, with intentionality of improving, and going from like 0-2 at the first Aria of Sorrow tournament I did in like 2023, early 2024, to placing 4th out of 16 or 18 people this year is something that I think is pretty impressive, that I'm very happy with myself for.
Okay.
That is a pretty wide range of improvement. Like, I was keeping pace with one of the number 1 and 2 players in the world. And
Nice.
to do that is like, I am surprisingly quite proud of myself for that. It's something I am pretty happy with. There's still a lot of improvement to be made. I think there are still leaps and bounds better than me, but, you know, the gap seems closable now comparatively.
Hell yeah. Okay. And I promise I won't forget for the next person. But if you were to leave a question for the next person, we don't know who it's going to be. It can be a streamer. It can be a musician. It can be an artist. You don't know who it's going to be. what question would you like to leave for them?
Oh God, I am so bad at being put on the spot like this.
Hey, and again, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be super deep. It can be something goofy. Just whatever's on your heart, and just like, you know what? Let's just kind of just send it.
I don't know. I guess I might almost tie this back to you directly asking them, "What are you doing this for?" Just like genuinely ask yourself, or ask them even like for a genuine, honest answer. What are you doing this for? Are you really doing this for yourself? Are you doing this because it's something you want? Because it's something you feel you need to prove to yourself? Is it something that you just want to like to test or push yourself for? But like, what are you doing all of this? And by all of this, I mean like the effort, the time, the motivation. Is it like, what are you really doing it for?
I wrote it down.
Yeah. And like the answer can be, it doesn't have to be anything concrete. It can be something as simple as because it's fun, and that's fine. But I think
the beauty
that's
of this whole thing, we'll
yeah.
see how it plays out.
Yeah. Maybe given time, I could come up with something a bit more interesting. But for now, I think I'm going to lock that in.
Okay, I love that. And of course, as per any iteration of my podcast, you will be back. So thank you again, man. I appreciate it. And I just appreciate you so much. And I don't say it enough. And I do appreciate you, man. So thank you for
makes
doing
two
all
of us. Absolutely. It's been a blast. Sorry if it's gone a bit longer than any of us anticipated.
No, not at all. This has been the perfect amount of time.
Oh,
and with that being said, thank you, and I'll see you guys later.
Absolutely.